roaring 20s, an iconic era in American history. It is defined this way for many reasons. One of these reasons is for the automobile. This culture-changing invention had been created decades before the 1920s. However, they became popularized by Henry Ford. Ford, with the help of the assembly line, could manufacture the decade-defining Model T in just 93 minutes. With this rate and with the right workforce, a Model T was released every 10 seconds. In fact, more than 15 million Model Ts were made by the year 1927 in the Motor City of Detroit, Michigan. This made cars more of a commodity rather than just a luxury only a few can have. Even though cars had been around before the 1920s, they weren't really made for the muddy roads that the horses would often travel on and would get many flat tires. And because of the fast-growing production of the automobiles, government then began to create the first paved roads and highways. One of these highways was Route 66, built in November 11th, 1926, that stretched from the city of Chicago, Kanye West's very own, everyone's favorite Donald Trump supporter, to the city in California that, according to Dr. Dre, you never find a dance floor empty, Los Angeles. Route 66 was made to link main streets around the country from east to west coast, connecting small town and big cities together through automobiles. And after World War I, this gave people the opportunity of freedom and exploration of the country, traveling from coast to coast faster than ever before and creating road trips. Fun fact, many people would travel during night because they couldn't handle the heat inside a 1920s automobile. Road travel wasn't the only transportation of the 1920s. Airplanes created by Wilbur and Orville Wright became much more reliable after the First World War. Airplanes, instead of just carrying light materials like wood and delivering mail, now could deliver passengers to destinations, and now they're inspired by air exploration, stunts, and breaking speed and distance records, like Charles A. Lindbergh flying from Long Island to Paris in 1927, proving that a faster transatlantic trade route was possible and making the world seem not as big as it once was perceived. During the 1920s, electricity became inexpensive and implemented into more American homes. Electric lighting was cheaper than the outdated oil lamps, thus making them more common. The use of electricity was to make life easier, like the creation of iron stoves and vacuum cleaners. This increased the hygiene of the average American citizen. These luxury items turned into commodities, and then, mixed with the increase in wages and disposable income, the middle class was created. The middle class would spend their money in radios, washing machines, and other luxury items. Companies saw this and started advertising their products and having competition with other companies to win over the middle class citizen. Other tactics companies used to make money was the installment plan. For items that were too expensive, a person would complete a payment over the span of months and years, maybe never. This tactic is still used today in buying houses, a phone, or a car. A down payment is made first and then the person pays the rest in the future. Another wonderful invention made by the wonders of electricity was the radio. Radio could now be part of every American's home, providing many forms of entertainment like music, news, and sports. One of the first public radio broadcasting networks was the KDKA, located in Pittsburgh. People in the 1920s would turn to music for entertainment. Jazz was making a huge movement throughout the country. What started as just a local part of African American culture that originated in Harlem spread into a national phenomenon with the help of jazz artists like Duke Ellington, Willie the Lion Smith, and New Orleans' very own trumpeter Louis Armstrong as being pioneers of the genre. Just like many decades before, people still read during their leisure time for entertainment. Authors with really long, complicated names made books like The Beautiful and the Damned by F. Scott Fitzgerald, 1922, To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf, 1927, and A Passage to India by E.M. Forster, 1924. These books were cemented in 1920s culture. Like generations before, theater remained a great form of entertainment. People would rush to see performances in Broadway, even having a theater district in New York. People would often watch Cinderella on Broadway, The Vagabond King, and Dearest Enemy. By 1927, over 250 shows debuted on Broadway, with 50 of them being musicals. The public wasn't just satisfied with theater. During this time is when the world saw the birth of motion pictures. The film industry started blossoming during the decade, witnessing the birth of horror and gangster movies. When movies were created, they wanted to be different to the star power that theater had, without having household name actors. This changed when Hollywood studio system was created, and movie contracts created recognized actors like Douglas Fairbanks and Gloria Swanson. Sports were also a huge part of entertainment during the 1920s. Radio listeners throughout the whole US would tune in to listen to announcers narrate how Babe Ruth would hit a home run. During the 1920s, one could see men wear that classic formal suit one would see in the movies, while you would find women wear below-the-knee dresses to flapper-style dresses. During this time, women's role in society also saw a major change. On August 18, 1920, the 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. This gave women the needed voice and a more important role to help shape America.